Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to prevent any lazy negativity, we have decided to make this episode a drinking game.
You fucked up.
So anytime we say anything negative at all about each other, about this film, about how, like the theater, Dave is a flea circus. You're going to hear this sound.
Sorry, I was scratching.
That sound means we're taking a drink, and we hope you drink along with us.
So, pour yourselves a glass, and we're going to find out why no one's liked their understudy since the 50s.
Cheers. I thought you were going to do a buckle up. I thought you were going to do a buckle up, Dave. I thought that's what was going to be coming there in the intro. That's right, people. The random year generator spun 1950, so we decided to talk about, for our conversation, our featured conversation, all about Eve. Classic. It's behind John on the YouTube. Go ahead and check out that YouTube, if you might. I said that. Is that an accent? What accent was that? If you might?
Yeah, that was actually, when you don't try and do it, that was almost an Australian accent.
Nice.
Aww.
That was the closest I've ever been.
Yeah, you
so yes,
trying.
all about Eve.
You sound like a dickhead when you try.
We have some mini reviews,
Dave,
right?
you just sound like a dickhead all the time. Happy birthday.
That was a buzz for
Well
John.
played.
I didn't hear that buzz, but I hope the audience did. John, you got mini reviews? I feel like you went and saw the cinema. Did you go to the cinema?
God, how many weeks has it been, you guys? Have I been to the cinema
It's
to
been like
see
a week and a half.
anything new? I don't think I have any mini reviews.
Dave, you have any mini reviews?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Tell us.
And everybody, well, yeah. So again, we're gonna set up the scene 1950, the year 1950. Which I'll say right off the bat, we're gonna give you some film news and some world news so that you can really set the scene of what the world was like when this film came out, all about Eve. Two of the movies that may come up, depending on where you're looking, one of which, maybe the most seminal movie that came out this year, was not made in America, so it's not going to come up in our box office. It was made outside of America, very, very far away, but 1950 was a very, very big year for one particular filmmaker and one film in particular. We'll get to that. But another movie that I'll just say right off the bat that may come up to American audiences, depending on how your Googling is going, that we have already talked about, is the number one best British film of all time, according to the British Film Society or whatever. The Third Man, which we did as part of our 1949 series, actually came out in America in the 1950 film year.
Crap,
So
that
it
was a popular episode on YouTube. Everybody loved it.
Yes.
I think they
So
thought
it
it was
came
a
up-
copied version of the movie, but it was just us talking about it.
That's right. So just to tease ahead, because we'll get into the awards and all that kind of stuff later, that film was up for the Oscar season of 1950, including our film, even though in history, as far as history is concerned, it came out in 1949. But again, we already talked about it, so we don't even want to get into that shit. Okay. We have another important announcement here, besides the fact that this is likely going to be our last show of the year. It's Dave's birthday today!
Yeah.
Woo! Dave.
That's right. What's Dave doing for his birthday? He's drinking with the boys.
Yep.
That's funny. That's funny. Jeff went, his instinct was gushing. My instinct was buzzing.
Yeah.
We're buzzing your age. How old are you? No, don't say.
I'm hitting 52 today.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's a good
I
year.
think a lot of people would be very surprised by that, and they're going to want to know what your secret is. If only they saw your spine.
Well, I'll show you.
Oh my
I
God.
just saw my basement.
Dave, for now and forever. Fuck you.
Cheers. Cheers.
Always fun
Would you
doing
actually,
episodes on our birthdays. That's
it
how
kinda
socially
is.
active we are.
Hello.
Dave, we have an audio for you, Dave.
I thought this was coming because, like, I've lived a little large on the messages for other people this year, so I was expecting to be hit back.
Large.
we just reached out to one reliable source, and I will say they recorded yesterday, but I actually reached out to them this morning. So they got together to do this just for you, Dave, on a day that they weren't even filming. Unlike us, where we're like, we will only do it while we're recording. And I haven't listened to it yet. I told you not to listen. You didn't listen to it?
I know I didn't listen to it. Going in
fire it
cold.
up?
Good. It's
I
like
didn't
it's
even-
a Christmas.
Hopefully
it's a
the audio
Christmas
levels are good.
miracle.
All right, let's see.
Are you pushing the button or am I?
I don't know. I'm not going to fuck with my system. You go ahead. You know how to do this stuff.
Hey, happy birthday, Dave.
A big happy birthday to you, Dave.
Safe
You have
server.
a fucking awesome one.
I hope he has a good one too, man. Also, I got a question. How old do we think Dave is? Do we think Dave
Ah.
is at the you might need a colonoscopy kind of age?
Is he offering?
What side of the
Dave
colonoscopy
has a
is
very
Dave on?
nebulous age. I can't tell. He could
That's
be anywhere
true.
from like 30 to 60.
It's the Australianness. It adds a layer of intrigue and mystery around him. You're like, how old is this motherfucker? Hey, Dave. Happy birthday, buddy. We hope you have a good one. And I mean, look, dude, it is also Christmas. You're one of those December birthday people. So you might be visited by 3 ghosts.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
in your case, it might be the ghost of hairs past. Maybe the ghost of Dave's hair returns. You think Dave ever had hair? I'm gonna feel really bad.
They
if
went with
Dave
the bald
has
joke.
Alopecia. Now I'm gonna
Wow.
feel like an asshole.
Oh,
Jesus.
I would love to see how Dave looks with hair, though.
What kind of hair, dude? I'm thinking like
What
maybe
the fuck
like a
is going on with
Hasselhoff
this
mullet
recording
or
right
something.
now?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
For sure. Frosty
everything they do
Tips
is 3
mullet.
hours long.
Well, everybody in Australia has kind of a
Frosted
mullet,
tips
right? They're
mullet?
born with mullets.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Dave,
Once
let us
they
know,
come to the
please.
U.S., the hair leaves.
I'm going to send them a
Dave, can
photo
you weigh
tonight
in on
after
this
we record
important
the show.
Australian hair question?
Does the hair go back to Australia when you've left the country? He goes back to Australia.
What? How long is this?
Waiting on the
message?
beach for him,
Fucking
like,
wondering what he was going to ask then.
Another year
What?
passed. Dave will be back any time for us.
Oh, Jesus.
I'll be waiting for you, Dave.
They're recruiting a lot of listeners.
goddamn birthday, Dave.
Happy birthday, dude.
Wow.
Welcome back to the Dave
It's-
Green roast.
Dude, if it's like
I
when I
hope they-
pee these days, it never ends.
I hope they never rehearse anything ever as long as they live. God, they went off for so long. What the fuck was that?
That's what they do, baby.
Thank you, Matt and Mark, who recently thanked all of the guests that have been on the show. They thanked Dave, they thanked Jeff, and then they said, John, even though he's never on our show, we always have to settle for Jeff, but John in spirit. So they settled for me. Dave's down the pipe. They settled for me. And John got a shout out, even though he hasn't been on their show in fucking years.
I love you guys. I'm sorry that's that. We should rectify that. Now I'm not as busy. Have me on. Let's strongly disagree with each other, which I'm sure would happen over any movie you select. Let's do
Especially if it's a good movie. That's hilarious. All right, Dave. Well, happy birthday to you. I'm glad we're celebrating together remotely here.
Yes.
And you
How long
get
have we
to
known
kick
each
us off.
other?
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
How long
let's
have
do
we
it.
known each other? We met in 20. What, is
I moved in
14 too
14.
late? Is 11 right? Or was it 14?
No, I was,
It's either
I, was in the
13
country, I wasn't in the country till 14. So
I was about to say, dude, I think
I was going to say
we're
13
coming
or
on-
14.
I think this
10
is
years.
10 years, dude.
it's 10 years.
Like to the day. Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
14.
Not the
Holy
day, but-
shit. What? Wait.
Yeah.
Actually, it's
What
more
month
because
did you move
I
in, dude?
I moved
It
in
was-
in February and David just gotten there.
Yeah, I was
think so.
I was just after like I was in the end of February.
So we're knocking on 11 years. Yeah, because I moved in at the end of February. I did a
So
show
we're
January,
coming up
February,
on
and then I
11.
came in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember
well,
John, I was doing like a fast or something, and then we met for drinks where you were going to ask, like, hey, you can just live, because I was going to be like, hey, I might live in Astoria. And I got such a headache drinking with you because I hadn't had a meal in 3 days. Fucking idiot.
Sounds about right. Well,
And then
I'm
I
glad,
moved in
I'm
and
glad
David
it
just
worked
got
out.
there. Yeah.
Look what it led to. The greatest achievement of our lives. This,
Holy
this podcast.
shit.
Which we grew 20% this year in our listeners, apparently,
right?
to our wrap-ups.
Our
Thank you,
Spotify
listeners.
wrap, at least on Spotify for sure.
Yeah.
And
If
for
that's
Chartable, which we were
20
using.
people, I would be happy about it. And I have a
yeah,
feeling
we-
it might literally be
the podcast
20 humans.
the
on Spotify.
podcast grew and my balls dropped 20%.
Oh, Dave. It's a
Hey,
good
if I-
year.
If I could drop my balls 20%, I'd be thrilled. Actually, I could use a little drop.
A little tight, a
So,
little uncomfortable.
Just wait.
Get some boxers, bro.
all right. I should have said at the top there, too, that you can check the show notes for your timestamp. Like, if you saw All About Eve and you're like, yes! And now here we are 9 minutes in, and now you're sitting there and you're being like, I'm never listening to Matt and Mark ever.
If you skip this solid gold, fuck you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, fuck everybody. Listener. So we're going to get to All About Eve soon. We're going to get to our 1950 year in review, but Dave said he has a mini review. We got to do it. And then maybe one or two gripes to bring us home this year. I have a couple of options. I haven't decided which one I'm going to do. But Dave, We like to start with the mini reviews. What do you
Sure.
got for us? I have no idea what you're about to say.
I went to the theater today and I saw Kraven the Hunter.
Whoa!
There's a man going around.
He definitely came around and around and around. It was quite possibly the biggest piece of shit I've seen this year.
Oh my
This year.
God.
Okay, so is it where Kraven and Morbius? What do you got? Let's put it on the.
Kraven would sit below Madam Web.
Wow.
I saw a podcast episode the other day, and I didn't listen to it, but the title, and I won't out these people. I think the title of the podcast was, "Is Kraven the Hunter the worst movie of the year?" And
Yeah.
they had already clearly seen like a preview, and
Yeah.
we're not saying that on our podcast, but I
am.
have, All right, there you go.
We're like
No, I have the thing to back this up. It was like I wanted to like it and I wanted it to be good, and they put so much effort into it. But I feel like, again, this is the same one like Morbius got delayed and delayed and delayed, and every time they delayed it, they fucked with it some more. So you got this overproduced thing that doesn't quite sit in cohesiveness anymore, and a lot of what was happening just didn't make sense. And it just bounced around to like I didn't really care about any of the characters. It was.
But Dave, hold on.
Weird.
How sexy was Aaron Taylor Johnson?
Oh, sexy.
we were
Nice.
excited.
But
Well, we saw Bullet Train last year. We were like, and he's going to be Kraven.
But yeah, like it just there was nothing. Like, I'm trying to think of a single redeemable thing. There was maybe one joke in it where I kind of snickered, and that was it. But the rest of the time was just like
The fight scenes weren't even like cool to watch.
No, the fight scenes. Half the time he's running up walls, so it was like Catwoman.
Is Kraven the Hunter, guys? I'm totally. Y'all know my pop culture limitations. Is that a video game?
No, it's a Spider-Man villain.
Oh, whoa! I had no fucking idea. That is
Nobody
brand new
did.
information. I
That's
thought it
why
was
it was an interesting
Sony
pick.
PlayStation game.
Yeah.
So is it Marvel? Is it Sony? Like, who owns the rights?
This one's Sony. It's a Marvel character, but Sony owns those rights because it's the Spider-Man universe.
Okay.
Wow, so they've really knocked it out of the park this year with Venom 3 and Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, they've knocked it out so bad they've shut down the wing. They're only making Spider-Man films now. No more of these. Like, we're not.
And they
getting
can't
any
blame
more
the
of these.
strike. The strike was a
No,
year ago. They
they
can't
can't.
blame the strike.
This movie just was a mess,
Wow.
and I almost fell asleep 3 times. It was just
Even with your countryman in a strong supporting role, Mr.
he
Crowe
finally
himself.
nailed an accent, which was great.
Oh my God, what was it?
Even then, he was Russian, but even then, it was just there was nothing for you. It was like everything just played out too long. Yeah, not a fan.
Dave, I just want to put it out there. I love you so much, and we have a film podcast. And in the theaters right now, there are so many good movies playing. And Dave chose to take a big swing with Kraven the Hunter. Dave, how is the opening weekend doing? It opened this past weekend.
Oh, it's bombed spectacularly. It made like $10 or $15 million or something
right now, just because you gave your money, and they're very appreciative for you. And the budget, I'm going to look it up. Here you go. The budget is sitting at this is IMDb, so it's just estimated 110, which is actually not through the roof nowadays for a big action movie, but 110 million. It is sitting. Dave is a part of the U.S. gross, which is sitting just under 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
Woo.
Wow.
I mean,
So I probably would have needed to do
really-
over 25 for them to be like,
Yeah.
oh, we're on our way to like making some money here.
They
But
probably would have had to do a fucking letter drop to let people know who Kraven the Hunter was, because it's a character that unless you're 100% in on Spider-Man, you don't really know about.
or the
either,
marketing. I mean,
so-
I saw like the trailer twice.
Yeah.
And Kraven the Hunter sounds cool. That sounds cool. It's a good name. It's a good title
Yeah.
if you didn't know anything. Kraven the
And it was
Hunter.
going to be R-rated, but
Yeah.
like
It was gonna be.
even the R-ratedness was a letdown, except for maybe one incident where a dude gets completely cut in half, which was kind of okay.
Some of the
but
kills in the trailer look
there
kind of
was-
cool, I guess. Yeah.
there was just nothing. It was missed.
that's too bad, dude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I
It
hope
is.
that's
No,
not a
I
reflection of the quality of your birthday.
I went to because normally I like to go and see these things and try and defend them a little, because I know how the comic book crowd can be really harsh on these movies, because sometimes they're good. Like Morbius, there's a couple of fun things you can find in that. Madam Web, even there's a couple of fun things you can find in that. There is almost nothing you can find in this. So yeah,
Wow. Wow.
Well, there you
Right.
go. I mean, that's
watch it out of
that's about as blunt
curiosity.
as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Almost made $12 million at the box office. All About Eve in 1950 almost made $12 million. No, we're not quite there yet. We got some gripes to get through first, but we'll get there soon. Thank you for the mini review. Guys, this might be the last one before we break for a couple weeks. So
it will be.
What are we griping about?
Yeah.
What do we got? We got some things to complain about.
I've only got one little
I
one.
don't have anything to complain about. Dave, what are you griping about?
You got a complaint?
I do a little. All right. I was reading the
1 minute
movie
gripe
news.
timer. Let's go.
I was reading the movie news the other day, and they've announced a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang reboot.
Oh God!
And I'm
what
like,
the world has been waiting for.
why
movie
the fuck are you
freaked me out.
rebooting Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? It's already the perfect acid trip on film.
It is such an acid trip.
There is nothing that's ever going to come close to
And
what
all
that
practicals.
film accomplishes. And it also has one of the most terrifying characters. Ask anyone from that time what they were most afraid of in a film, and it's the fucking child catcher.
Child catcher.
That motherfucker was terrifying. And
Yeah, what a
I
name.
just feel like, leave it alone. Stop doing it. Don't just move on. Move
I'm
on.
searching. Oh my God. That makes me so sad.
Yeah. Man. Child
Uh,
catcher.
And there ends my gripe. Don't try
I
and
don't know if
remake
we
a
don't know-
perfect acid trip.
We don't know how to.
It's gonna be a
we don't know how to do
bad
child catchers anymore in movies.
Yeah, let's bring it back.
Dude. Ah.
Okay, fucking hell.
The movies have turned into a place where studios are so convinced they will not fail they will fail with original material
Yeah.
that they are looking backwards exclusively. I mean, I would even, do you guys feel, because everybody's been saying it for a few years now, but do we feel confident enough to say that even the big comic book franchises, which have dominated the past 10 years for sure, maybe a little bit more, do you think we're at the end of that, so that some seminal ones will still come out and they will make money and people will see them, but that generally speaking, they're not going to have the same kind of momentum? Do you think these studios
Yeah.
are just freaking the fuck out that even their biggest IP franchises are not really turning heads the way they were?
I mean, how could they not see this coming? I mean, they top themselves in every movie, but there's only so far you can go.
I think they go to Wall Street and
Like,
they
they
give us
worked
good
up-
news.
Yeah, they worked up to like Avengers, then they did Avengers 2, and it didn't quite get there. And then, they're going for another 2 Avengers films. And granted, they put some new blood in, they got some new cast and stuff, but you just got to, they're reinventing the wheel every time. And it's just, people are wise to it now. They're just like, yeah, that was okay.
Here's what I think.
That said, Dave, are you
ahead,
pumped for new Captain America? I keep seeing that trailer every movie I go to see. It's just in my face.
No, I'm cautious about that. We didn't have a good run of luck with. I quite dug the Captain America series, when they did the Falcon and Winter Soldier thing. I didn't mind that, but again, they didn't really know what to do with the villain in that. So hopefully,
It's our man Harrison, though. Come on, Harrison's
well, I think he's an ancillary character. He's not the main villain.
Oh, you think they got a surprise for us?
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
And it is a good actor, so yeah.
Do you hear how exacerbated I am? So, Jeff, talk to me.
Anyway, I don't know. No, I was just going to say, my guess is I wonder if, because in the old days, you can make, the producers and studios can make a ton of money if they hit something right. Even if it was just, like margins or percentages, like, All About Eve, $1.8 million, and then it grossed 8.5. So it's 5 times. So like a 5x is great. You get a 10x, it's like incredible. And then of course you get your Starbucks, your Facebook, your Juggernauts that are like 100x, and it's like unheard of. But I wonder if there's a way now. They know they're not going to get their return on their investment. So I wonder if they're just trying to find ways of cutting out costs so that they can keep afloat. They can keep basically just charging high. Because we talk all the time, but why are these budgets so high for streamers? Because I think that's where they're headed. Like they're going to keep making film because they need to have a diversified portfolio, so to speak. But I don't know if, I mean, obviously they don't like losses and they know they're not going to get a $2 billion movie, but what are they able to be diversified enough where they can make a lot of money, even if it means screwing out a lot of those people that were making a living in the middle class? Like the middle class is going to continue to get screwed. That's what I wonder.
You know where this all comes. I listen to these Hollywood history books like all the time, just to really try to get a grip. We come from the indie film space. I think we tend to, really enjoy movies like that. as well as the big monsters. But the big monster blockbusters are just such a mystery. When I was a kid, I thought that these movies were made by like some magical committee in Hollywood. I didn't know, you just assume these massive studios are just pumping these things out. In my listening and all my research to all this stuff, I felt that I feel like I learned that at a certain point when Gone with the Wind came out, David O. Selznick basically like proved to everyone with this theory that if you go chips all fucking in on one monster and it succeeds, you will make way more money than making a bunch of movies one year for lower budgets and hoping that they hit. This is the pre-horror movies days, so when you don't have your fucking $15,000 horror film that makes $100 million, or 100 whatever, around the world just does incredibly well. So ever since then, literally, like you've had this trend where people are there are two different business mindsets, and they're just not super helpful. Kevin Feige is still, I think, credited with making the most money ever, with the Marvel franchise, and that's hard to beat. It's hard to talk to someone and say...
Now that you've got these corporations, you've got a third mindset as well, where they're afraid to show a loss on their books when it comes time to appease the shareholders.
Unless they want to show a loss on their books, like if there's a merger
that's the thing.
or something.
If they're heading for a shareholder meeting and they've got to answer the shareholders about why there's this giant loss...
All right, so that brings me to the only... So I can bring this up. I can say this. This is not like inside baseball. I got to hear Tony Vinciquerra, who is the CEO of Sony Pictures, talk the other night.
Damn.
And he said something that is not surprising. I think everybody's saying this, but it's somebody at that level, a studio head saying this, it's probably true. He said, absolutely in a few years, a handful of years, maybe maximum, there's only going to be 3 or 4 streaming services, and we know who they are already, right? You know who they are. It's going to be Disney, Apple, Amazon, and Netflix. Done, right? It's probably going to be these guys. So let's put Netflix to the side.
HBO. Come on, Matt.
I know. They're going to get absorbed by somebody, and I think they're going to be a part of what I'm about to say, which is I think when these massive companies that do treat all of their media as potentially write-offs, I'm wondering if there's a world where that ends up being the best of the worst case scenario. You have these monster companies that don't seem very reliant on creating excellent media. That's not the bulk of their business. Is that an opportunity for us to be treated as like a creative space where they do want to take big swings and just think about prestige because they're not trying to make tons of money from it? Or is it going to be an echo of the 80s, 70s and 80s, when these companies started being acquired by Coca-Cola, GE, and you started seeing a lot of tension where they wanted the studios to be profiting each year, and it ended up yielding a specific kind of movie. I don't know, man. You look at Apple TV and what they're doing, the movies they're making, they're fucking taking risks. In some way, they're taking risks, right?
Yeah.
And they're
also, though, their price is creeping up.
The price is creeping up because Netflix is blowing them out of the fucking water when it comes to actual viewership.
Yeah, because Netflix handballed the Russos back over to Marvel.
Yeah. Well, what Apple
Dave,
gets what Apple gets in about 2 or 3 days, what Apple gets in a month, Netflix gets in like 2 or 3 days.
I mean this as a compliment, but I really do think it's true because I heard Ted Sarandos speak a couple of years ago, and somebody asked him, like, what is your brand content? Like, what is your brand? And he said, our brand is anything you want. He said, we very specifically tell our culture is we are not niche. We are every single thing you can think of. We've got it. And Dave, the first thing that popped into my head, the trash planet in Futurama? Yeah. That giant fucking, when it just comes back and they're like, what is that? I mean, honestly, this thing it's unstoppable. They're profiting so well. Anyway, we're getting into the weeds, but I'm trying to be optimistic because we are absolutely moving to a place where is our best incentive for these megacorps that are going to be owning everything one day, that they can write off their failures. Fucking sign me up and take a risk.
I hope it actually becomes like Formula One, where they just want to win. And so therefore they will have smaller things because they know smaller things will get people. We all know people that love niche things. I have somebody that loves like animated musical content. So if like Netflix has the #1 animated musical content and they win those hourly, they get more hours than the other 4. Like they'll keep people on their service and they'll beat Disney. And I think that will end up being more important. So maybe they will fund some of the smart things. For instance, in 1950, there are 4 MGM pictures in the top 10, which means that there were more than 4 MGM pictures that came out in 1950. So they weren't all going in one thing. Whereas Paramount got number 1. And that's it on the list. So Paramount did put all their chips in the pie. So who would you rather be? Paramount at $9 million or MGM at a collective 15 out of their 4 movies? Something to think about.
Yeah. And this was also at a time when MGM was like, all the stars in the sky. They were just they were the Netflix. They were the monsters.
Fox has 3. Okay, anyway.
All right, let's do it.
Have you seen the new MGM Plus logo? It's kind of cool.
No.
They've got a streaming service now. Like they're owned by Amazon, but they're also a separate streaming service, MGM Plus. And they've turned the MGM logo into like a 3D line. It goes around the side of his face and stuff. It's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. They have their own not independent, but they have their film production wing, and their film marketing wing is separate from Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah.
Like they are their own animal still. I heard some people talk from their team a couple of years ago as well, and they are theatrically minded. They are thinking about movies. They care about that legacy, which honestly is, I'm wondering if that's the best case scenario. They're acquiring these kind of studios and these monster things, and they're trying to let them stand on top of their legacy. I am so curious to see what David Ellison does with Paramount next year, assuming everything moves through.
Yeah.
These legacy studios, I think, are still going to be like, everyone recognizes their name. These companies are going to prop them up. I think Apple will be the only one that just doesn't do that. They wanted to buy HBO for a long time. There you go, Jeff. What's the over-under? You think they're going to finally succeed? You think they're going to buy HBO one day? They've been trying to buy them for like 10 years.
Warner Brothers they just did redivided their streaming separate from the rest of the business. So they're either looking to like minimize their losses or they're looking for a sale.
Holy fucking shit. I cannot believe that, dude. That is amazing stuff. It's a crazy time here.
Yeah.
Well, they don't sell nebulizers from China for $20. Okay, so last thing, my gripe is so short. Let's hit the thing. I'm not even gonna make it a minute. All right. This is back to this is back to disclaimer, which I liked. I did like. I want to clarify. I liked it, even though there were a couple nitpicky things that I had early on in the show. But I really liked the show. Do Brits just always have hot water in the tea kettle? Is it just always on? Are they just always ready? Like when they're like, you want some tea, and it's just fucking ready to go? Kate Blanchett passes out, and then she wakes up, and then she's just boiled some coffee like that, like as if Kevin Kline left his fucking house for hours, but left the tea kettle hot. Just to make sure, just in case. Just in case. What is with the Brits always having hot water in the tea kettle? I got to sit for 10 minutes and wait for that shit to heat up. Why is theirs always ready to go? They got a big Harry Potter.
Because they have electric kettles.
Kettle?
Yeah,
they have a boil.
It's a 30-second kettle.
Have you never? Yeah, it's like a 30. Have you never used one of those?
I've had electric kettles before, but that still takes a minute. You still hear it fizzle up. It's not instantaneous. She gets up, fucking coffee boiling, fucking out the door in the cab. It happens fast.
Isn't that a good scene? She chugs the coffee.
Awesome. Oh, and she gets sick from it because she's a good actor. Yeah, it was awesome. And the show's great. I love it. She's awesome. They got great actors.
Is it great? Have you reviewed it yet? Did you finish?
Not after I finished it. Not after I
haven't finished it yet, so he's holding off.
I just watched another show too, which was a really good show. It would have been a good show, but it's a really good show because of their casting. Because they cast the best actors on the planet to be in a show that they would have said no to 20 years ago. So I'll get that. That's my tease. Shut up. I'm going to wait till the end of the episode.
I'm curious.
And no, because I don't have fucking Paramount Plus like you motherfuckers. I should have gotten Paramount Plus.
I'll give you my
It's on P Plus, right? It's on P Plus?
Sorry, David.
Oh, because I don't have...
Fuck, I don't know. I haven't started it yet, but yes, I'll give it to you.
There was one that I wanted to watch on Showtime.
Apple TV. Are we still talking about that?
No, he's talking about The Agency. There's another one. There's another one on Showtime that I wanted to watch, and I was like, fuck that, I'm not going back to Showtime. But Showtime's got to get bought by somebody. I don't give a shit about them.
Well,
but I think
Showtime is included with Paramount now, whether you want it or not.
Okay, then I got to get your password, John, for sure.
Sure.
Okay,
it is
giving
included,
you the Disney one. And that rate goes up all the time, too.
I bet they are going to sell that off, though, Dave. I think you're right. Do you guys want to talk about All About
The
Eve.
film year
We
1950.
probably should.
We're going to talk about We're going to talk about All About Eve, but first we got
Come
to
back
talk
next
about the
week and
film
we'll
year
talk about-
1950. Now, 1950, old box office. I checked 3 different sites. I checked Box Office Mojo, which is essentially worthless in this time period. I checked the numbers, which also is kind of worthless in this time period, and I checked Ultimate Movie Rankings. But I'm actually going with Wikipedia because I'm simple. What do you think, according to Wikipedia, was the highest grossing film that was released, at least in America, but certainly anywhere, using American numbers, in 1950? Highest grossing film, 1950. What do you think?
Oh, God. Jesus. It could have been
What are you looking at? You're looking at a
Winchester
list?
73. Yeah, I'm just looking at movies that came out there. I'm trying to think of movies that
Winchester
families could have gone
73?
to.
Is that a gun? What the fuck is that? Is that a cigarette?
it's a Western. Westerns were popular back then.
Dave?
I have no idea.
All right, you're not going to get it. Okay, number 1, Paramount Picture, $9 million, according to fucking Wikipedia. Are you ready? Samson and Delilah, which is
There
a
you go.
Cecil
Fuck,
B.
that was my
DeMille
next guess.
picture. I feel like in doing these shows, Cecil B. DeMille has the number 1 movie a lot, and I don't remember the names of any of them. The
Yeah.
greatest film or the greatest in the world. What was that? There's like the greatest picture show or the greatest something.
The director
one of
who
them.
outshone his own work.
And how he's got a
Greatest
Golden
story
Globe.
ever told or something.
He's got the lifetime achievement Cecil B. DeMille because Martin Scorsese accepted his and he just started talking about Cecil B. DeMille and we were like, can you just get to the thank yous, please? That was number 1 according to Wikipedia. I'm gonna actually jump to number 5 because if you count re-releases and if you look at like the numbers and you count a lot of the other ones, they actually put what Wikipedia puts as number 5, which is of course Walt Disney's Cinderella.
Cinderella. Yeah, I thought that was going to be my second
that came
guess.
that came in at number 5. But again, if you check other sources, it puts it at number 1. So I can't follow this shit. It's way too old. But Cinderella is also arguably the highest grossing movie from this time period. Certainly, if you count the longevity, it probably has made more
it's
money
gotta be.
and
It's
has
gotta
more
be.
legacy than all of these movies. And I already said there's one movie that was made outside of the U.S. It's probably the most important movie of 1950. But we'll keep going. Number 2 and number 3 were both by MGM, and these were King Solomon's Mines and Annie, Get Your Gun.
Gosh,
Both MGM
yes, of
Pictures.
course.
2 and 3. Number 4 was the original Cheaper by the Dozen, which is a 20th Century Fox. And to round out the top 10, Born Yesterday, Columbia, Father of the Bride, MGM, Broken Arrow, and All About Eve were 20th Century Fox movies that sort of tied for 8 and 9. And then The Little Words for MGM comes in at number 10. On the list of movies to watch from this year, you also have movies such as Harvey, Rio Grande, The Asphalt Jungle, and this is another confusing one because I was like, this makes no sense. According to Wikipedia, Sunset Boulevard made $5 million at the box office, which would put it at number 3, but it's not on our list. So again, these numbers are fucking awful. I'm so sorry, everybody. But Sunset Boulevard probably should be on this list too. And actually, All About Eve and Sunset Boulevard, especially when it came to the Oscars and stuff, they're both about falling stars. So they probably split a lot of attention this year, especially for like the real film buffs. Joe Mankiewicz's All About Eve and Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard. More about that because neither of those actresses won the Best Actress Oscar. How about that? Neither of them, even though they both have 2 of the top 10 movie quotes of all times. They're so infamous. Neither of them won the Oscar for Best Female Actress because they probably split votes. What do you think the number 1 most important movie that came out this year is? 1950, not made in America. Anybody? Any film buffs out there?
Should I scream it with a Japanese accent? Is that the...
Oh, now Dave's laughing. Dave was like, I'm put on the spot. Yeah, go ahead and say it.
No, I'm not going to say it with a Japanese accent, but it is absolutely, without a doubt, The Different Perspective Story by Akira Kurosawa.
That's right.
Rashomon.
Starring Toshiro Mifune.
God
and
damn it, it's so
Machiko
good.
Kyo.
It's still so good.
It received an honorary Academy Award in 1952. But yes, Rashomon did come out in 1950 in Japan. That's absolutely right. Walt Disney's animated film Cinderella actually premiered in Boston. Maybe was that the last time a movie ever premiered in Boston?
What the fuck?
And Walt Disney Studios also had their first completely live action film. It debuted, which was, of course, anybody do you know what their first live action film was? You two? Arr, matey, arr.
Treasure Island. Treasure Island. Yeah. That was good. It came out.
Treasure Island.
It's like Popeye?
Not in film news, but important. Frank Lesser's musical Guys and Dolls came out this year at the 46th Street Theater, which is now the Richard Rodgers Theater, which is where Hamilton plays. Guys and Dolls would run for 1,200 performances and it won 5 Tony Awards. And also other film news. Child star Shirley Temple announces her retirement from films at age 22. In 1950, she officially retired from films at age 22. She retired. All these college
that girl
students
just slept on a pile of money for the rest of her life.
That's right.
I feel like she made a lot of money.
Heading into the awards before I do world news here, we got to talk about awards because of this year and stuff. Sunset Boulevard won a whole lot of Golden Globes, but when it came to the Oscars, it was all about Eve. All About Eve was nominated for 14 Academy Awards, which is still to this day tied for the most Academy Award nominations of all time. It is tied with any guesses?
Titanic.
Yes, and
Return of the King.
Actually, good guess. No, La La Land. La La Land received 14 Academy Award nominations. But funny you bring up The Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings: Return of the King won all of the categories it was nominated, which was 11. Reminder.
La La Land.
Shut up, Dave.
Dave, come on, dude.
Return of the King went 11 for 11.
If you had to watch one movie again, would you watch Kraven the Hunter or La La Land?
Dave, answer it. Answer it.
I'm thinking.
Make a birthday wish.
Oh, we're getting Dave some buzzes this week.
Come on, La La Land.
Return of the King, don't forget,
a great movie.
Return of the King had 0 acting nominations, and it won Best Cinematography for the first movie and wasn't even nominated for this one. So if you give it some acting nominations and a cinematography nomination, it would have 14 or 15 nominations, but it got fucking snubbed. Anyway, let's see, a couple of All About Eve things. All About Eve lost the black and white cinematography Oscar to The Third Man, which came out in England in 1949. So a little bit of, it's not category fraud, but The Third Man was done so well, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
All About Eve, tough year.
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard was the 5th film with nominations in every acting category, and the 2nd to not win any of them. How about that? So Gloria Swanson, as I mentioned, for Sunset Boulevard did not win Best Actress, nor did our leading actress, Bette Davis, who had already won 2 Oscars, and she had already been nominated for 5 in a row, which is a tied record with Greer Garson, and she'd been nominated for 6 out of 7, which is a tied record with Greer Garson. So she already had 2 Oscars, but we believe that they split votes. Also, our co-star in All About Eve, who played Eve, Ann Baxter, was also in this category. So Bette Davis had a lot of vote splitting going on. So it actually went to Judy Holliday for Born Yesterday, and probably one of the biggest Oscar surprises of all time. George Sanders for All About Eve would win. He plays the reporter who gets his Oscar scene at the end of the movie, even though he's a very understated performance. Josephine Hull would win for Harvey. And for Best Leading Actor would be he plays a critic, sorry. He plays Jose Ferrer would win for Cyrano de Bergerac. This is an interesting story because Jose Ferrer was then, in 1950, under investigation from the House Un-American Activities Committee over suspected communist ties. So he won Best Actor despite that and was given very little chances to win. So who knows if there was some mob or mafia influence in there. We'll never know. Also, 2 more fun stats about this Oscar year. Franz Waxman's score for Sunset Boulevard would win over Alfred Newman for our film. And Franz Waxman's score is actually like one of the best film scores of all time for Sunset Boulevard. So that actually makes sense. Again, All About Eve, tough competition. But Edith Head, the famous costume designer who we have talked about many times on this show, who has 8 Oscars to her name, won 2 this year. Because this is still at the time where they split black and white and color, not just for cinematography, but also for costumes. And Edith Head won for All About Eve for black and white. And she also won for color. What's interesting about this, the color one was Samson and Delilah, the Cecil B. DeMille picture that was the #1 box office hit. She had different teams for both of them. So it's not even like her and her team won. She was collaborating with one artist for All About Eve and collaborating with another series of artists for Samson and Delilah. Edith Head is a legend. 2 Oscars for costumes. Any other movies you want to shout out this year that you saw that came out?
Yeah, for sure. I do love when we do these lists, just because it is a reminder, kind of what I was giving Dave about a hard time for earlier. Some of the most famous movies of this year were nowhere near the top 10.
Right.
The Breaking Point with John Garfield is a great movie, worth watching. Where the Sidewalk Ends is In a Lonely Place from this year. The Bogart. It is. That's a fantastic Bogart film. If anyone has never seen that, that is a down and out screenwriter. The shit goes awry. I don't even want to say what it's about. The Asphalt Jungle.
Oh, yeah.
And you mentioned Harvey. Night in the City. We're in the throes of some really wonderful noirs. Everything I just named, basically,
Right.
other than Breaking Point, all three of the last ones I just named are really fantastic noirs, worth watching. And there was one more that I just wanted to call out. Fuck it, doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyway,
All right.
So
couple world events. Are you ready?
All right.
I said, are you fucking ready for some world events? Are you ready to do this?
I'm so
Bring it
pumped
on.
to learn
L. Ron
about
Hubbard.
1950.
L. Ron Hubbard published Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health, 1950. We're going to lead with that.
Flash forward to Dead Reckoning, the final reckoning.
Okay. The Ho Chi Minh begins offensive against the French troops in Indochina on January 1st. Happy New Year to the French troops in
Holy
Indochina.
fucking shit.
Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands recognize Israel as a nation state after the 1948 pact by the UN. The Cleveland Indians pitcher Bob Feller, after 15 and 14 season, takes $20,000 salary cut to $45,000 a year at his own suggestion because he felt like he wasn't playing up to his salary. When was the last time that happened? The NFL rule changes open way for a 2-platoon system where offense and defense are played by two different sets of players. January 23rd. Back in the old day, it was like soccer. Everybody had to stay on the field, which was probably more fun. Jackie Robinson signs the highest. How crazy is that? Jackie Robinson signs the highest contract in Dodgers history, only 3 years after becoming the first black player in MLB history in 1947. The Constitution of Independent India comes into effect. Rahendra Prasad elected India's first president. U.S. President Harry Truman publicly announced support for the development of a hydrogen bomb. Oh, that was all in January, by the way. So much. Long story short, I'm not going to tell you all the news because I can't fucking do it. But like, so much shit happened in January in February in 1950. Because World War II ended in 1945, sort of, but we were still dealing with the consequences forever. And now fucking shit took off. So I'm just going to highlight a couple, and then I just want to tell some fun stats. So I mentioned Jackie Robinson. The New York Yankees signed their first black player of all time. Elston Howard and Frank Baines were both signed with the New York Yankees, the first black players. The Big Cat, Earl Lloyd, becomes the first African-American to play a game in the NBA. Can you fucking imagine what the NBA was like before Earl Lloyd became the first African-American to play a game in the NBA? Can you imagine that? Scored 6 points.
Like all
for
other
his debut.
sports. I would imagine before.
Scoring 6 points.
Yeah,
I mean, they get
in his
more on
debut.
the TV cameras.
Right.
So.
Are you ready? For the Washington Capitals, which is now the name of their hockey team. And also, Althea Gibson becomes the first black competitor in a U.S. national tennis competition. So obviously civil rights finally starting to take off in 1950s. I don't believe they always stayed so positive for the next, 100 years or so, but certainly not the next 10 years. But 1950s, at least it seemed like some doors were starting to open. Let's go to some fun news, okay? Actually, this one I want to say. Curly Lambeau resigns. That's right. The Green Bay Packers founder, player, and coach Curly Lambeau resigns after 31 seasons and 6 NFL titles to his credit. This is before there were Super Bowls. And of course, Lambeau Field is named after him. So Curly Lambeau, thank you so much. Joseph McCarthy charges State Department people 205 State Department employees were considered communists by Joe McCarthy. So even though he technically started his reign of terror in 1949, it seemed like 1950 was where he was like, oh, no. The bloodbath is inside, and I'm going to fucking rain torture on this. Also, the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives came out here in 1950. They started. Okay, from now on, only fun ones. Are you ready?
That's pretty fun.
The minimum wage in 1950 is 75 cents an hour. Yeah, how about that? Not even making a full $1 in an hour. Just like what are they, a waiter? What are they, a barback? Making $1 an hour? A gallon of gas costs 18 cents. The cost of a first class stamp, 3 cents. Get your pennies ready with your little coin purse. The U.S. population, though, is 151 million. That sounds really high for 1950. I'm surprised. We've only basically doubled plus some since then. And how about this? Detroit and Cleveland were the 5th and 7th most populous cities in the United States, respectively. Can you imagine Detroit and Cleveland in the top 7? That was before any of the Texas cities. The top 10 baby names were pretty generic, to be honest with you. 20 if you count both genders. Included Sandra, Carol, Deborah, Patricia, lots of boring names, but also Gary. Gary is one of the most popular guy names of all time. So shout out to Gary Ostermueller, who was born after this, of course. Dad, you're probably mowing a lawn listening to this, but congrats on helping make Gary such a legendary name, which is making a comeback, by the way. Name your kids Gary.
Thinking, when the fuck are they going to talk about the movie?
How sweet is a little Gary? Shut up,
We don't
Dave.
do that.
Smokey Bear was a real bear who was rescued from a forest fire and later became a living mascot for wildfire prevention. In 1950, he was rescued, Dave.
That bar trivia, that has got to be a question somewhere. That's fantastic. I had never heard that before.
Dave, if only I skipped this and went to All About Eve, you would not know that Smokey Bear was a real bear and he was rescued in 1950.
How many years was he employed before he ripped some people's face off and they had to go to a guy in a suit?
Right around when Ray Liotta was doing all that cocaine and Cocaine Bear. All right. Ranch dressing originated from the Hidden Valley Dude Ranch in 1950 in Santa Barbara, California. John's from the South, and he basically lives close to Santa Barbara now. Come on,
Valley,
ranch dressing.
We're just going to hide because we invented ranch.
Oh, come on, ranch is good.
I saw somebody recently order buffalo wings, and they gave him blue cheese, and like, excuse me, can you please bring ranch? So there you go, Dave.
Oh, fucking heathens.
It depends on my mood. Yeah, I'll go either way. Come on, ranch is good, dude.
Diners Club, first credit card. Bob Hope's first TV appearance. Korean War Begins.
Oh, I like it.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else interesting. The first strip of Charlie Brown was not called Peanuts. It was called Lil Folks by Charles M. Schultz. It was published in 7 nationwide papers. That's right. Lil Folks came out here in 1950. The Knicks draft Bob Cousy. The first edition of The Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe was released in London. C.S. Lewis. Mother Teresa founds missionaries of charity in Calcutta, India. And there's a Truman assassination attempt. That's my world events, setting us up for All About Eve. Last but not least, Dave, and this helps you, on 9/11, never forget, 9/11, the first typesetting machine to dispense with metal type is exhibited. That's right. The typewriter was basically invented in 1950. What a fucking year, Dave. And you wanted to cut me off? You wanted me to rush through this on your birthday?
It's an unbelievable year.
Everybody listening wanted you to rush through this.
No.
I did rush through it. I'm going to listen to this
love
at
this
1.25 times tomorrow, and I'm going to see if I can keep up with myself.
Dave, we'd like to challenge you on your birthday.
Yeah, can you outdrink both John and I together?
Well,
the answer is yes.
So far that's happened.
All right, are you guys ready to talk about All About Eve?
Fuck yes.
All About Eve won 6 Oscars. None of them. One acting performance, of course. But Anne Baxter had already won an Oscar, by the way. And Bette Davis had already won 2. George Saunders won. There were 4 females nominated for Oscars for All About Eve, and that is a record that still stands. 4 women, 2 in leading, 2 in supporting. How about them apples? Joe Mankiewicz, who wrote and directed this movie, 2 years in a row, Dave, won Oscars for writing and directing. The year before was A Letter to Three Wives. Because you wanted me to hurry up through this shit, but it's important. 2 years in a row, because I'm setting up the scene. What All About Eve? We know Bette Davis was a legend, and he's lucky he got her. Because she had just finished her studio contract with a rival studio before she came here. She just finished. He didn't even think she was in her grasps. But he won the Academy Award for Best Screenplay and Director for A Letter to Three Wives. It did not win Best Picture. And then All About Eve, he comes out with this script, this direction, and it wins Best Picture. So basically 5 Oscars because of him in 2 years. Fucking All About Eve. Producer, Darryl Zanuck for 20th Century Fox. Music by Alfred Newman. Let's fucking go. You flea circus, Dave. Number 2.
All 3 of us. Sorry, go. Sorry.
Number 2, all-time actress of all time, Bette Davis, according to the AFI list. I know you love the AFI list, Dave. And the Writers Guild of America has ranked this screenplay the 5th greatest screenplay ever listed. So I can't wait to hear you say you didn't like this movie. I can't wait to hear it.
What are the 4 above it? Do you have it?
No.
AFI greatest screenplays? I'm on it. Keep going.
I already clicked it. I got it. Can you guess?
Talk to me. Is Network above it?
I would put Network above it. I don't know. I don't know. I just went right to Wikipedia and it just gave me a shit about the Writers Guild of America West. So it didn't help me at all.
I have it. Okay. It is, according to It is Casablanca at number 1.
Oh, okay.
The Godfather, the first one, at number 2. Chinatown at number 3. Shout out.
Wow.
We do like
We've already
that
done
one.
that one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Citizen Kane at number 4. There's some legacy stuff in here.
That
for
was
sure.
one
I
of
think
our
I
early episodes. That one.
I could argue with these for sure, but another 1950, Sunset Boulevard is in at number 7, and Network is in at number 8. All right, let's do it. Let's talk about All About Eve.
Here we go. Let's just do it. Have you all seen this before?
No.
Blind spot for me. Big blind spot.
Wow. I saw it in college, but I have to admit I was making fun of Katie Emerson the whole time because she wanted to watch it so bad. And I was a freshman in college, and I was like, I don't know if I want to sit and like talk about like real films when I was, you know what I mean? I was like, but I feel bad. So
I can go you one better. I've actually never seen a Betty Davis film.
Yes,
There
that's
you
not
go.
true. You
First.
saw Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Oh,
Dave.
yeah,
we talked about it on the show.
Yeah. She
Yeah.
was just much older then. Not even that much older, but older. Yeah, your second
Dave.
Betty Davis.
Second Betty Davis. I forgot about
love
that one.
old
That's
Betty
the
Davis
episode
on
we
here.
released twice.
Older
yeah.
women are unrecognizable to Dave. He can't even.
Well, to me,
doesn't
she's
know
a
what he's
younger
looking
woman.
at. I mean,
Actually, she
literally,
is.
dude.
Yeah.
She might literally be younger than you in that movie. I'm looking it up right now. Baby.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay. So, we all rented this. It's a classic.
I just want to say as
I'm
well,
gonna read-
did you guys have trouble with the rental? Because
How so?
I rented it on my phone, and then I tried to play it on my TV, and it's like, yeah, please use an Apple device to play this. I was like, fuck you, I'm in the Apple
Oh.
TV app in my Samsung TV. Like, yeah,
I did rent it
no
on-
end of trouble.
on
I had to
Amazon.
stream from my phone to my TV.
I also did Amazon because Jeff and I are frugal motherfuckers, and we saved like 27 cents or
Yeah,
something.
I think I might
Yeah.
do that from now on, because if Apple's going to limit where you can play shit, I don't
Yeah.
know whether it's a software update glitch or something,
Yeah.
but
Or
yeah.
when Angela says she needs batteries, I always get something else so I can get them shipped together and then get $3 towards a credit. So that's what
Cool.
I do. So I get a free movie rental. Anyway,
carry on.
All About Eve. I'm going to read the IMDb description, and then we're going to take it away. This is based on The Wisdom of Eve, the story by Mary Orr. A seemingly timid but secretly ruthless ingenue insinuates herself into the lives of an aging Broadway star and her circle of theater friends. We like to shoot from the gut. What'd you think? What'd you feel? No stuffy criticism on Dave's birthday. What'd you think about All About Eve?
Who wants to go first?
I just want to share with the world that Betty Davis was only 2 years older than you, Dave, when she shot Baby Jane. Okay,
Not this.
I'll
She was
go first.
Barely 40 in this one, right?
unless Dave, it is your birthday. If you want to go first, please kick it
No,
off.
you can go first.
Okay, I'll go first. You guys are going to be shocked and surprised, but I had a great time. This is a straight from the theater kind of script, right? I mean, there's so many charming, witty lines. Joseph Mankiewicz is like the
Oh, it's
fucking Noel
great.
Coward of America.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nice.
like there's so much wit. There's so much intelligence in his characters, and yet they don't all sound like Joe Mankiewicz. They sound like a person at an echelon of intellect and humor and wit. Again, everybody is good in this. Structurally, I'm not going to get too into the weeds here, but I'm excited to talk about that because I like the conversation we had leading into this earlier about older studios and just how big blockbusters and how big movies were seen back then. Because this was an anticipated movie back then. There were very recognizable faces in this movie. Betty Davis certainly being one of them. So it was anticipated and people were excited to see it. And the structure of this is fascinating to me. That she is not in every frame of this movie. And obviously you
Yeah.
can kind of guess that considering it's about, I think they, through the trailer, they had told the world that, look, it's about this other younger person that's coming up too. But nonetheless, I was very fascinated by how they told this story. And that is absolutely from, the screenplay. I'm sure it was a very clean adaptation of how they approached that. It also, I mean, it really reminded me of, it made me miss New York. It made me think about the theater world it made me, Jeff, that I did listen to, you shared that podcast with us from The Big Picture when Tracy Letts is on there talking about his physical media collection. And at one point, anecdotally, he says that him and Kuhn, what's his wife's name? Is it Carrie?
Carrie Coon.
Carrie Coon, right? That I can't remember. He said it to her, she said it to him. And he said, look, plays are better than movies and movies are better than TV. And it's still just, it's just kind of the way it is. Like good theater is still better than
well,
great
we have a
movies
live
and
in
great
television.
movies.
We love making television, but movies are better than movies are better than television. It's just the truth.
I mean, yeah.
Said,
When they're all done well, there's something really special there. But a movie like this, which doesn't happen very much anymore, and I'll talk about something I watched recently that made me kind of think of a similar kind of perspective. A movie like this does remind you that it's hard to do nowadays, but this was still a time when audiences really were accepting of theatrical style writing and storytelling. So I'm talking about dialogue. I'm also talking about size of performances, which are not just over the top presentational, but I'm also talking about transitions and moving in and out of scenes and structure. This feels like a play. It doesn't, there's something unique about it that I feel like he really touched. And I love that meta aspect because obviously it's set in the theater. I don't know if he just comes from that world and writes everything in that kind of style, because all of his movies aren't about the theater, or if he just really put on his cap and did his homework and made sure that it reflected the world of the story that he was telling, which was New York City, fucking Broadway in the 50s, in the late 40s, early 50s.
Well, I'll jump off on that, and then I'll let Dave be our caboose here for the final reviews for your birthday. To that, yes, they're all theater people, but I think he does. The majority of the time I was watching this movie, I was sad for contemporary moviegoers. And Dave, of course, we opened this episode with talking about Kraven the Hunter. That was bad, but you didn't see a Nora, you saw Kraven anyway. But I spent a lot of time thinking about how smart it was, but also how entertaining. And I have since, because we didn't do our show a couple days ago, I since looked up more about it, and apparently entertaining was a word that came up a lot. And I don't even know if that's a slander. Obviously, it's a good thing to be entertaining, but for a movie of this caliber, you know, nobody says The Godfather. It's oh yeah, really entertaining, you know. So I was I wonder if that's kind of denigrating this film. But you're right, John. It's about theater, but it doesn't. They're not on stage at all. You know, you see her bow, Bette Davis, but you don't see them on stage, and they don't sound like they're on stage, but they do. It's the weirdest thing where actually the person who probably sounds the most theatrical is the fucking film critic who's doing the voiceover for half the movie. He sounds more theatrical than the actors, who just sound smart and witty as fuck. So witty, Bette Davis, but it's so grounded. So, I mean, it's one of the best performances you'll ever see on film, for sure. Yes, Anne Baxter is great, but she's also great in, what if Marilyn Monroe was actually, a really great actor without all of that trauma? What if she actually, because the way she talks, you know, she has that innocent, sweet thing down. But anyway, I loved the fact that I understood the world so well by not having them do what we do with television, which is if a doctor's on TV, it's easy just to be well, you know, as a doctor who only thinks, you know, logically about this, you know, I would definitely have to put a catheter in this relationship. And it's shut the fuck up. No doctor I know talks like that. You know, I feel like we trope things really well. But in this time, they're theater people, but they're jaded. They're, again, smart, witty, intelligent, funny. It's more about their emotions. It's more about their drive, their want, than about their persona, their image. You know, they're almost playing against it. And I think
the core of this movie, and I don't think we're giving away anything with spoilers. It's not anyone's going to watch the trailer, but I think they were marketing it this way. This movie at its core is about the poison of the romanticism of celebrity. Yeah, that is accessed through or acting. Yeah. And back then the theater was still the center of that space, the highest caliber you could be. So that romance of it, and I love what you just said. I think you accidentally stumbled onto it, but it's kind of making my point in another way. The most theatrical person in this fucking movie is the critic, the person that is trying to, it made me think about the Birdman scene, that wonderful scene with Diane Weiss and Edward Norton, about how this sometimes the way that criticism, and it's not their fault necessarily, it might be a little bit of nature of the beast of dealing with criticism, but so many times there is this heightened cynicism that is theatrical in its nature, the way critics tend to write about our prestige material. And there's nothing more prestige than theater, and theater critics are maybe the most dramatic people in the world because they all wish they could be fucking actors. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, I feel like that meta kind of commentary that Joseph Mankiewicz put into that, he ends up being one of our best access points to her in the latter half of the film, to Eve, which is very fascinating because it takes a long time to get there for you to finally see someone who calls her out for being the wolf in sheep's clothing. And it took him, who we are, of course, they're not trying to be coy about it. He is a twisted, ambitious, manipulative, cynical, critical, judgmental human being. And he's very open about that. And only he can see who she really is and still like almost like want to be an equal with her. I mean, it's right there. The writing's on the wall. And I don't know. Anyway, Dave, what do you think, dude?
Well, like I said, this was, like my second Bette Davis film. I had no idea she was such a fucking powerhouse. This got me from the go and just kept going. Like I instantly, dude. The opening scene with the narration, and they go around it's almost like they're going around the room. And it's funny you talk about the wit. I was drawing Douglas Adams parallels. Like it was very Hitchhiker's Guide. Some of the wit and the way they were almost parodying themselves. I got serious single white female vibes.
Yeah, for sure. Big
because I saw that first, and yeah. And the thing that I love the most is for the first half of the movie, they constantly have you wondering, is she just doing this innocently or is it insidious? Because there's nothing there and then suddenly there's a look, but the look doesn't happen in the foreground. The looks happen in the background. And you're like, did I catch that? Was that a thing? Like they put you in the position of like the protagonists who are getting the wool pulled over their eyes as such. And it's a very entertaining watch.
Did you buy her story when she first shared it in the dressing room? Did you buy it?
Not at all.
Yeah, me neither, dude. I was like, bullshit. Yeah. Fucking psycho bitch. Who fucking sees every performance?
Yeah, I was like, that's a fucking performance.
Psycho.
Like
guys, let's share it with the world. Let's be honest. We're not fucking Bette Davis. I'm not saying we are fucking gigantic, successful thespians from the 1950s or 40s. But I have experienced stalkers in theater, people who are obsessed with shows or obsessed with performers.
I've had a stalker once.
It in summer stock. Yep. I've experienced it at a fucking theme park. Firsthand. I'm talking like
I remember that.
Castmates.
I remember that. Yeah.
It is fucking insane. This is real. This is not hyperbolic, ladies and gentlemen. No. Fucking Eve exists. And the only thing that I thought might be a tiny stretch that they really had to kind of make that you have to suspend your belief just enough is that I don't know if it's actually believable that a group of people who lived their life in the theater would ever let somebody like that inside. They know that people who see a show that every day is a fucking psychopath because they exist all the time everywhere.
I disagree because the first thing she did was heaped praise on them and catered to their ego. And they just welcomed her right in because she literally stroked the one thing that they wanted stroked.
But I actually think to that point,
I still loved it. I loved it.
Yeah,
you're right, Dave. I also think though that there was a good touch of it where Bette Davis wasn't Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard. She wasn't, if you tell me I'm the best ever, I'll do whatever you want. She was listening. She was paying attention. She was calculated. So even though she was like, and she kind of said things like, she's sweet and whatnot.
Dude, it took Birdie to break that. Like,
well, Birdie she caught it from immediate.
I think Birdie's old school theater. I've met them.
Yeah, fucking love her character.
Back to us setting this up, doing the whole like what's going on in the world up until this point. Now, of course, it's very easy for us to say that. I think in 1950, people the theater is meant to be the place for the misfits. This is a Patti LuPone thing right now, where she doesn't understand this elitist mentality of theater, where everybody's trying to say what should be right, and everybody's trying to be the bannerman for like all the things in theater right now. And it's like, nobody's watched on theater Reddit, so shut the fuck up and just like let's try to figure out how to. No, people are on like Reddit and Twitter and Instagram trying to like dictate how the world should view theater, and then it's like, no, it's not how theater works. Theater is that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And I think they do that really well in this.
It's the one thing.
I think they bought the vulnerability of Eve, even if her story was bullshit. This is a time where there's a lot of people that had nothing. And so for her to basically be like, this is the only thing I have, it's the only place that I have hope. I think that is something that they isolated. So even though the actual scenario, somebody that sees every show is a fucking psycho, for sure. But the idea of I have nothing else because who the fuck am I? I came here from nowhere. I have nothing. Nobody has anything. And this show gives me great hope and joy. And maybe that could be me someday. I feel like theater people go, that's why theater is universal.
I related to
gone
it
if it wasn't for
because like I originally was going to be a computer programmer. My mother decided. And so I got like a degree in that and then immediately dropped out and went into theater, and she was horrified. And I've done nothing but theater for 35 years.
We all have that story. And I think
with a little bit of film training.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you have to be kind of insane. They have a great discussion on the stairs about what it takes to be in the theater to this. We don't even have to quote it and stuff, but they're kind of just, I mean, we all totally related to that. I guess my only criticism, though, is that I wanted a beat where in this opening sequence where you basically meet Eve and then she is totally accepted by Bette Davis by the time she sees her not fiance at the time, boyfriend, playwright, director partner off. I wanted a little bit more suspicion so that Birdie wasn't the only one. And then I wanted her by the end of that sequence when Eve was so kind and helped carry the bags and check them in and stuff. By the end of it, I wanted her to be on board. But I'm also able to absolutely process the fact that I think we were supposed to feel that Bette Davis had such an ego that somebody who would have stroked it that well with such sincerity that you're discussing, that would have found such life inspiration and not just obsession the way she presents it. But Bette Davis would have been like, I'm so moved.
The insidious nature where she worked into the friend circle. It was like fucking Invasion of the Body Snatchers on Broadway. Like,
Jesus.
No one believed like she might be a problem. No, not Eve. No. And it was like fucking 50 sci-fi. It's like, this is a problem. Right. No, it's not. And they never listen until it's too late.
And they play it all the way up to, again, and we have to give credit to the screenplay. And of course, he directed it too. They play it so hard for so long that by the time they're having that wonderful dinner at what I assume it's a Sardi's-like restaurant. I've never heard of that. It had a number, but where they're kind of celebrating the two couples
Sardi's.
And
where they casually just meet friends at 11:45 p.m. I got tired just hearing that. I was like, "You want to meet at 11:45 p.m.?" I sat there.
Broadway
and I
babies.
I wanted to pass out.
Oh,
I sang Broadway Baby this week. Manhattan babies don't sleep tight until the dawn. I sang that this weekend, and I was like, "That's fucking tiring. I can't do that."
You're basically
you sleep half the day, go and do your show, go out for dinner.
I used to be. That was one of the reasons why I got into this racket.
Thank God we start shows at 7 now. Where you finish your thought?
The only thing I hate about filmmaking is that it is the exact opposite of that. I hate getting up so early.
It starts early,
It's fucking.
You know what's funny?
Shoot a night movie and you'll do overnights.
I did
Joker fully
recently where it was like a 12-hour day, and they kept it to a 12-hour day. It was insane. Like we turn up at like 10 and we'd be done by 10.
That's a great day. That's a good.
I'll work with them again.
But what I was saying though is that what's remarkable is that this whole single white female thing that you see coming, but it's the play out. Again, it's that wonderful balance of Joseph Mankiewicz is smart enough and he trusts his audience to know that, like, I know you know what's happening. I'm going to let you enjoy watching it play out so that you will know more than your characters know pretty much the whole time. But then eventually your characters will know. And by the time we get to that restaurant scene, that Sardi's scene, the characters do know. And then he has one more fucking scene where he tries to show you her crying in the ladies' bathroom to Carol. What's that? Was there
Karen?
That actress, Karen.
Celeste Holm is Karen.
Fantastic. And she, it's totally sincere. And she comes out and the critic is like, bullshit. And that's the first time when you finally hear somebody say out loud to her face, "You're lying." And even she doesn't let onto it. It's just, God, that's like,
it's also the first time. It's also the first time she dropped the pretense as well with her in the bathroom.
And
if you don't,
and actually, this is great.
Yeah, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this.
So, first of all, they considered other people like Joan Crawford for Betty Davis's part, but they actually said Anne Baxter was too sweet. People weren't going to believe her as the villain. And Joe Mankiewicz, probably because of his clout, was like, "That's exactly why we need to this." I think this line. Lloyd says Margot compensates for underplaying on stage by overplaying off stage. I think that line is so important to this film and to the casting, where it's like, we know what the movie's about. It's about her understudy wanting to slit her throat and take over her, and she idolizes her, but is it pretend? We want the audience. It's like, it's so obvious that we need her to underplay it so that when she finally just threatens her, it's like, we actually need a threat. The eyes are good. The looks are good. I need a threat, and I need her to pull it off. Yeah, it was good.
But also, like, if you want to talk about the writing, like when she asks her a question and she says, "I feel like I looked into the heart of an artichoke."
Oh, it's so good. Like, remind me to tell you about the time I look at that was Margot said that.
Yeah, but the etymology of that is like having an artichoke heart means to fall in love often and easily. So she basically just called her a whore.
I mean, yeah.
And I had to look that up. It was so clever. I was like, that's why I enjoyed this, because the wit was clever. But everything hit the mark.
I also love, too, she was still suspicious of Eve. She wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Birdie was sure, but she wasn't sure during the dinner party, where the famous scene with the famous dress where fucking 8-time Oscar Award winner Edith Head made the shoulders wrong. And Betty Davis goes, "No, you made it right. I'm wrong. I need to wear it over my shoulders because I'm a faded star and I can't fit into my dresses anymore." And Edith had said, "I buy that." And so this famous dress, like one of the most famous dresses in film history, she wears very famously over the shoulder with the little buckle thing in the front because of a character justification. Also, apparently Betty Davis was really difficult to work with because she had won a million Oscars in the studio thing, and she just left the studio. She didn't change a word of her dialogue. Is like the first time in 15 years, because she was like, this script, this is very similar to when we were talking about Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, where they rewrote the script and Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor were like, not Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, and they were like, fuck it, the play's better. We're going to do all the play lines. Very similar here with Betty Davis. She was suspicious, but she didn't know for sure. So when she says the line, which I fucking misquoted at the beginning of this episode, and I already hate myself for it, is fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night. She doesn't know. She doesn't know that she's not sure, but she knows she's going to have to try to find out. She knows it's going to get contemptuous. I think that's brilliant.
Did notice with a lot of the way a lot of things played out, like everyone was doing a scene, and it was on purpose, like. Because a lot of people,
but it was real. You don't know what's real and what's not.
I've literally run into people who will create drama so that they can play out a scene. Like those people are real. They exist.
The theater.
Yeah. Yes.
Dear God.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's remarkable. That's also, I was going to say, like, what are our favorite set pieces, our favorite sequences? That one is so famous.
There aren't that many. It's a small show. Most of the movie revolves around like 5 characters. Even Birdie disappears. It's really 4 or 5 characters for most of the movie. It's not a theatrical, like, million extras kind of movie.
You're right. This is not the Red Shoes. This is not a true behind the curtain story. Most of the drama of this is about their lives outside of the actual physical theaters. This is not a true, like, behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's a what would it
which
be
I think
like,
is one reason why it's one of my favorite things about, and this is not the only movie that does this, or certainly not the only play that has done this. I really, really, really adore when adults who are in deep, meaningful friendships or relationships speak extremely candidly to each other and do not mind having rough edges in their relationship, and they still just move forward. And this is just full of those. The 2 couples specifically, though, everything that revolves around them, you just have this comfort that you know that every scene with the people, with characters that are like that are unafraid to discuss their stuff, you know at the beginning of every scene, somebody is going to tee it up because they are unafraid to candidly call out what they are beginning to witness, which makes the person who is going to be driving the scene, which in a lot of cases is either Betty Davis or eventually Anne Baxter, you know that they are going to have to go even further because the curtain has been drawn back, if you will. That wonderful, and I'm going to fuck the lineup, and I couldn't find it in the quotes just now, but at the beginning of that sequence, when Karen and Lloyd come over, and they say something like, "Oh boy, I've seen you this way. Is it the beginning or the end?" You know, like, is the fight, is it just beginning or is it just ending? We just want to know, you know, like, and that's when it builds to her saying that famous line at the end of that scene. And it really does just like, fucking get your driver out, is teed up. Now Betty has to go even further because she has been called out. There's no mystique to the drama of their relationships. And it just makes me so exciting when people are not fucking coy. Sometimes in trying to achieve realism, you have these, these kind of tropes.
Snarky as fuck.
Snarky as fuck, but it felt real. It felt like real people.
I've said this before. There's no award for this, and I know he's a difficult topic of conversation for reason, whatever. But the fact that Alec Baldwin was the husband to 2 Best Actress winners in a row for Blue Jasmine,
Kate Blanchett and
then Julianne Moore, where her
Julianne Moore,
goes.
the one title,
Alice,
the one word title, Alice,
still Alice,
still Alice. Yeah.
He was the husband for both of those. I think it's Bill Sampson, but it's spelled Bill Simpson. He's incredible, and because like as soon as she said, you could tell like she says something snippy, and he doesn't have the lovey-dovey like, oh no, and she's a fucking, you can't understate this enough. Bette Davis, she's the #2 film star of all time. She splits the Hepburns, Katharine Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn. She's been nominated for 10 Oscars, record for women. I think Meryl Streep, but you know, and he is so comfortable that as if she says anything that is like a little egotistical or a little anxious or arrogant, he reacts to it in a way that's like, it's not an eye roll, but it's so grounding. It helps ground. And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying give him the credit for her performance, of course, but just like, as far as keeping the world that we're living in, and same thing with Lloyd, with Karen, and like the way that they come apart a little bit, because ironically or not, the most theater experienced out of all of our cast is actually Karen, who was nominated for an Oscar. She was the original Ado Annie in Oklahoma.
Holy
the woman
shit.
who plays Carol. And she would eventually win a Tony. And also Birdie would end up winning a Tony. Huge theater experience. And Baxter theater experience. Not Bette Davis, but she was in the studio system, so you can't fault her for that. But it's like they get it. They just get it. And they don't have to play it. They don't have to overplay it. They just get it.
It's funny. By the time we got to that, like the dinner scene where she's about to go in the bathroom, I was fucking hooked, man. I'm like, what's she gonna say when she walks in there?
Oh, for sure. And I love that. I love that Bette Davis. And,
I was in,
she's
all
like,
in.
She's like, you have to go in because we're just curious what she's gonna say. And we as the audience are like, it's not gonna get wrapped up with a bow. But at the same time, when she started, it was like, okay, let's see where she's going with this. It looks like she's wrapping this up with a bow. I couldn't help myself.
They kind of got you hooked on that drama too.
Well, and they were so confident in it. They were so confident in it, as Jeff just said, you literally have your characters saying, please go in, we have to know.
Yeah.
We have to know what she's going to say. This night isn't about her, and I don't care about her anymore. But I'm dying to know what that little snake is thinking. I mean, just it's out in the open. You have your characters, that apex moment where you now have characters and audience knowing the same information. And you just have everyone in the same space, and you can discuss it so easily. Bill Simpson, as Gary, right? He was who you're talking about as her eventual husband?
No, Bill Simpson was Gary was his name?
Isn't it Gary?
No, his real name is Gary.
Lloyd?
The character was Bill Simpson.
Is Bill. Yeah. Lloyd Richards was the playwright. That's Gary's husband. And Bill Simpson
Hugh Marlowe,
is the...
Gary Merrill.
So they married after this, and their marriage lasted for 10
in real
years.
life, Bette Davis married her co-star Gary Merrill. That's right.
Jeff, did you bump that button?
This movie made me think about...
no, I'm actually going to pee, but you keep talking. I can hear you, but you will not hear me pee. I promise. Okay, keep going.
Oh, that's going out on air.
Okay. I will just keep talking. Dave, we can talk technical for a second. These wonderful written scenes, I mean, you've experienced it in the theater. I know we both have experienced it when we're filming stuff. Not at this level.
This didn't play like a theater to me.
Exactly.
It didn't play like a play.
Because it made me think, it felt like these wonderful written scenes with 2 to 5 actors, even like that, the dinner party scene, the talking parts are usually no more than 2, 3, or 4 or 5 people at any given moment. This staging and the choreography. It made me so jealous that he got
not
to,
even that. The camera movement as well. Sometimes to
exactly
put it all
that's
together.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about. That one of the standout scenes for me, because the go-tos like the dinner party are of course fantastic, and the camera movement that is happening there in that lovely apartment, like it's kind of an obvious one.
Yeah.
I think one of the scenes that I'm going to rewatch multiple times to try to understand how they filmed it and why they filmed it the way they did is the scene on stage when she comes in after Ann Baxter's audition, and it's just her and Bill.
Yep.
And they're just fighting, and it's on that bed. It's on the stage and on that bed.
That was the only piece of blocking I didn't like when he threw it down.
Like the blocking?
Yeah, I didn't like that one. It seemed awkward and out of place.
But I felt like it was earned because like they were kind of swept up on the set of that stage, and they were acting. That was like one of the few moments where they were kind of acting as though there was an audience. And I don't know. I thought that was kind of fresh. What was one of the standout like camera moves or what was something that like technically kind of stood out to you?
The movement in the opening scene was so well blocked out. Where they're just introducing you to the players, but they're doing it through voiceover. And also sometimes they hand the voiceover to someone else. Like you'd be getting someone's internal monologue, and then you'd get someone else's.
That was interesting when Karen started.
It's the two non-performers, right?
Yeah.
It's the critic and Karen, the wife of the playwright. And not to denigrate that, or she's wonderful, and the way she plays her part, and clearly her husband wanted her approval for most of this until the later part. I feel like I love how much weight they gave to her perspective. Some of that was done through voiceover, which is really unique. The two people who were on the most outside of the world of the theater got to actually tell you the story, which again is just like such a clever device.
The Seta Siddons Award. Seta Siddons.
That opening. And now
the opening speech. I rewatched it. I rewatched it as soon as it ended. I went back and I have to hear that opening monologue again.
I think the final thing that I want to talk about, I was just about to say, is the humor.
Yeah.
When they cut to Bette Davis.
Oh, her fucking face.
The look on her face with that cigarette is 1000% like bullseye. You know exactly what this movie is going to feel like. They set you up with this. There's a little bit of nostalgia, a little bit of that theatrical romance. There's clearly all these black and white, tuxedos and dresses. When they cut to her reaction, I mean, if any of you thought this was going to be an over-the-top, sincere, sappy piece about the romanticism of theater, that fucking timing of her cut and her performance tells you everything you need to know.
Yep.
And I was smiling. I was a Cheshire cat for the rest of the movie. I was so excited to see those moments of humor in every scene.
Yeah,
even when that wonderful scene with the critic, Addison DeWitt and Eve in their hotel room, where he finally calls her out, and she's like crying on the bed and going way over the top, just chewing up all the scenery. Is like, darling, please, we're evil.
Well,
like
and
all
also,
the way up into that.
And he says we are evil. And actually, one thing that's brilliant about this, and we haven't mentioned her yet, and it's important. Marilyn Monroe's in this movie, and apparently she kept fucking up her lines, and she had like 12 of them. But it also just shows you how shallow the critic is. That here's this person who's sort of the trendsetter for this, and we're talking about wit. It's because people actually read wit. People actually read the newspaper. They read the reviews, and so they knew what was going on, and he gave her good press. But he was very self-aware about like, I want young arm candy. That's what I want. Like basically the things that we usually associate with movie stars. We want like Leonardo DiCaprio, right? We want young, under 25 model stars. And he's like, I want you at my arm. I own you.
I mean, that part was self-aware, but I noticed a lot of the men were played as like powerless buffoons. Like they held positions of power, but the women were driving.
What's funny about that, I agree, Dave. I also felt that the men, though, were smart and they willingly gave up their power.
Yes.
Whereas the women, it wasn't always as obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are not 1980s sitcom dads.
No.
These are intelligent men who were yielding to... There was a collaboration. I mean, literally, the meta aspects of this are unbelievable.
And also, one of my favorite lines here just is Margot and Birdie. Birdie, you don't like Eve, do you? This is the dinner sequence, right? This is right before it.
Yeah.
You looking for an answer or an argument? Margot, an answer. No. Why not? Now you want an argument.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, you write that on the page and you laugh to yourself and you're like, this is funny. And then all of a sudden the world gets this scene that's like, it's so relatable and so fucking witty and sharp at the same time.
Birdie had some of the best singers in the whole film.
Oh, dude.
And then Margot's
she didn't
funny
turn
business,
into
a woman's career, yeah.
She did have zingers. Almost every line out of her mouth was that wonderful combination of informative, moving a story forward and character forward while still being almost every single line a joke. Like almost everything out of her mouth was funny, and she was trying to like judge the scene that was happening. And she never felt like a cliche.
No.
The part felt grounded in cynicism, which is, I think DeWitt did that as well. This is what happens when, Jeff, when I was watching this, Dave, we may have watched this. We may have referred to this together at some point. That fucking acceptance speech by Tracy Letts and whoever was running Steppenwolf at the time when they accepted the Tony for August Osage County. And they're like, people keep saying, how did we do it? All we did was hire some of the best American actors and one of the best American playwrights, and we let them do their thing. That's basically the gist of the speech.
Are you listening, Sony?
Are you listening, everyone? And I mean, this is just such a testament to that. A super well-written script with a super, well-crafted film, and you let these actors embrace and live inside that space, and something more happens. I bet you would have a lot of fun reading this script because it is so witty and there's so much humor and the structure. We can be technical about it all we want, but it's when these humans stepped into it that something exciting happens. You start laughing about their pain, and that might be the center of the theater bullseye. I feel like the best theater, I say this all the time, when people here in the movie world, they always ask me, like, do you make comedy or do you make drama? And I always say, like, not to sound like an asshole, but I come from the theater and I don't know the difference. When it's really, really, really good, it's both of those things. The best plays are both of those things. And this is just such a good example of that. And like, man, I could fucking scream this from the rooftops. I'm so glad we finally watched it.
Yeah.
And the commentary is so real. I love this Margot line.
I enjoyed this about 15 times more than Kraven the Hunter.
I love this line. Margot says to Lloyd, the playwright, Lloyd, honey, be a playwright with guts. Write me one about a nice, normal woman who just shoots her husband.
Shoots her husband.
Tell me that hasn't aged so well in 24 years. Tell me.
Every fucking line in this. Yeah, I mean, Dave, do you have any shout out lines? I mean, there's just.
No, I've covered the ones.
There's too many.
But that's the thing. You're not watching something that's dated. This will hold up.
It's that. I mean, I detest cheap sentiment. Margot, that's not like a stage line. That's a line that's fucking real.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's too many. I mean, honestly, every line out of every single person's mouth is fantastic. Go watch this movie immediately. Unfortunately, it's not on. It's not streaming right now, but it's worth the rental.
I feel like it'd be good to watch in a group too, just to see who gets what.
I want to watch it again with you guys. We should watch it again.
Elizabeth and I had a wonderful watch, and I always enjoy watching these older movies like with her. We just smile, and they're so charming. They're all just so well written. I would kill to have watched this in a theater in 1950.
Oh my God!
Just the laughs. Everyone would have been so
the coughing,
like you said, Jeff. Like people still read the fucking newspaper back then. Like they would have been in on that kind of wit and that kind of humor. It wouldn't have seemed dated the way that maybe we would be a little judgmental if you write like that nowadays. But man, we should
so
jealous
smoke
of
the
those
hugest fatty
back
and watch
then.
this again with each other and just laugh at all. I mean, honestly though, the delivery of "Fasten Your Seatbelt" is going to be a bumpy night. Like, we know it's one of the best lines of all time, but the way she walks up to that stairs,
used that. I
turns
have
around
no
and
idea
says
where it
that
came
line
from
and
till
walks
now.
up.
That's
fasten your seatbelts. Hold on to your butts. I feel like it's the same shit. You know what I mean? I feel like
how many times have I said that on this show?
Yeah.
You're
Buckle
in the
up, like
zeitgeist when you don't know the origin of a. That's Shakespearean bullshit, right? Like everything we say is Shakespeare, and we don't even know it's
Shakespearean
Shakespeare.
is right.
I also said
Shakespearean is
strap yourself in
100%
my
right.
sex dungeon, but apart from that,
All I heard was sex dungeon.
I went to a Christmas party and I was told there was a sex dungeon basement, but it was pretty tame. It was just like an artist studio that had a bed in the middle of the room and a couch that you could clean the anyway, whatever. That was all about a
And
Eve
that's
from
and that's all he
1950.
remembers.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then I woke up in my bed later that night, and
No,
And I'm missing
no.
a kidney.
It was the end of the night. I was the DD. Get out of here. No, you can get a
Oh,
pig's
that's
kidney,
good.
Dave. Now you can get a pig's kidney. Didn't you hear?
No.
pig's kidney.
Yeah, pig's kidney went into a
Didn't you
human
hear?
recently.
Didn't you hear?
Fuck everybody. All about Eve. Joe
Okay,
Mankiewicz.
okay, really good, really good, really good.
All
Fucking
right.
amazing. One of the
Jeez.
best of the year.
People, Dave is going to spin the random year generator, but I
Oh,
got to be
yeah.
honest, I have no idea when we're doing this next episode, so I'm very curious.
It's going to be in January somewhere.
We are going to spin the random year generator, figure out a year, we're going to do what you've been watching, tell you all the things we've been watching, and then we're going to pause for 10 seconds of your time to listen to Dasein, which is what's on John's shirt right now. And then we're going to tell you the
I didn't
film
call
we're
out our
doing in next
sponsors, by the way.
episode.
Carlos Barroso and Dasein.
Shit! Dave, spin it.
Let's spin it. Let's spin it, baby.
Anyone
For your
got
birthday.
guesses? Anyone got
Fuck.
guesses?
1987. I keep guessing that, and if I just keep guessing that, I'm going to be
We've
right.
already
one day.
done 1987. We already did it.
We've
on
already
the second
done every
round. We've
year.
already done everything.
No, we haven't.
Yeah,
No, we have
we're-
not done 100 years. We haven't. 80 years. We've not
we
done
should be
80
honest.
years.
We've done
Wait, we should be
250
honest with the
episodes.
listeners. We should be honest with the listeners. Dave, what are the parameters of your random year? Because we have it set to 2024
It's
It's
to
2024 to 1934, I think it is.
I think so too. So we don't have the entire world of 100 years of cinema. We're not including anything before that. So that's why we are now in round 2. We have done every year more than once now, I think.
I think I'm drunk.
I'm feeling good. For Dave's birthday. Dave, spin it.
Here we go.
I was going to go get more beer, but I'm glad I didn't. 19. Is that a 9 or a 6? 9 or a 6? 93.
Hey.
Oh, it's a good year.
Right in my pop culture sweet spot.
3.
It's a good year. Yeah, we all exploded this year, I think. Hold on to your butts. Isn't that this year?
Is it? And Lion King was 94?
Is Jurassic Park 93?
Yeah, 93. You're right. 93. Yeah, 93 was, yeah, you're right. Jurassic
Yeah.
Park was, yeah. Dave, we like to start with you with what you've been watching. What you've been watching?
Well,
I just said hold on to your butts, and then we pulled 1993.
Yeah.
Dave. Holy
Pretty good.
shit.
I caught a couple of films. Caught a couple of screenings. There's a film called His Three Daughters, which is
How is it?
it's
Yeah.
Carrie Coon and Elizabeth Olsen and Natasha Lyonne. It I had to watch it twice because we have to test screen them before we screen them. So I watched it twice in the one day, and it kind of holds up. Like, there's a lot of shouting, but it's definitely like that one is one that could have easily been a play,
Is
and
this on-
may have been at some point.
Is this on a streaming service? Because I feel like I've seen this.
No, I think
recently,
this
but
is
it
out at
not?
the moment in the theaters. It
looks cool,
might
though.
be.
But you
There
liked
are
it.
billboards for it all over town.
I'll tell you what, it doesn't suck. I watched it the
It's on
second time.
Netflix.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
on
There you go.
Netflix.
I thought so. Okay.
Yeah. Then I discovered this is just my little gamer heart kicked in. I discovered a series called Secret Level, which is basically where they've taken game mechanics and written a little vignette using the game models as such. So you get like a Dungeons and Dragons story, and you get like all these other games, like a little
wow.
vignette.
How did they get the rights to that?
Exactly. But they did. People were just like, yeah, take it. I also watched Boss Level, which was kind of like a Groundhog Day sort of thing. But he has there's a narration that happens all the way through it, and it's way more humor than
Wow.
like Groundhog Day has. He just keeps getting murdered on this day, and he wakes up, and it's
Wow.
like there's all these assassins just come in and try and kill him. He wakes up with people trying to kill him every day in the loop.
Cool.
And then we did a screening of the pilot episode of Dexter Original Sin this week as well. Had
Was it?
had the cast there as well.
Showtime?
So for
my
a few
God.
seconds, I was in
Is
the
this at
same room as Sarah Michelle Gellar for a bit. Just gonna say, and
Buffy!
Kristen Slater was there too, but watching that. The guy they've got to do young Dexter is so fucking close. It's uncanny.
Wow.
And I went back and started watching Dexter over again. We're going to go through original sin once we get through this.
I love
Like, it made me go back and watch the original series
1
again.
and 4 are the best,
Dave?
but 1, 2, 3 is all good.
3 is
Their
the best.
marketing worked.
3 is your one?
You literally.
Oh,
you're
come
like,
on, I love
wanna watch
Trinity.
The first one again.
with John Lithgow, yeah.
I love Trinity. No, it's 4. That's 4.
That's 4?
That's
I
4.
thought it was 3.
Yeah.
No, 2 is Dokes finding him, and then 3 is that weird like catch middle one, and then 4.
Yeah, dude,
3 is
spoilers.
Jimmy Smits, maybe 3.
Oh,
is
yeah,
Jimmy
3 is
Smits.
Jimmy Smits, yeah. But yeah, no, the John Lithgow season will never be topped. That is the benchmark for
Trinity. That's season 4
Yeah.
for sure.
that
It's
one.
so
That
good.
one scene where he just like he's with his family and you just see him snap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like,
The opening scene when he kills that woman in the bathtub. He's like, ah.
yeah.
How unsurprising is it that he's a pastor?
yeah.
Fuck, John, what you been watching?
All right.
That's me.
I've been watching some stuff. Okay, so in light of our just another conversation, I kind of alluded to this. We watched As Good as It Gets yesterday, which I hadn't seen in a while. Elizabeth started and I came and joined her, and that is a movie that is the kind of movie they don't make nowadays. Written but directed by James L. Brooks, Jack Nicholson, Helen Hunt. You remember that? Greg Kinnear, 1997.
Are we talking Simpsons, James L. Brooks?
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, James L. Brooks, Terms of Endearment, Taxi, Mary Tyler Moore. You've heard of this guy.
Wow.
And then he also fucking got behind this guy named Matt Groening, and they made a little show called The Simpsons that is still running.
Wow.
Yeah,
Do you think
it
he's
went
doing
for a little-
okay, or
went
you
for a
think
little
he's
while.
poor? Should we make a GoFundMe for him?
I think
or
he's
is he okay?
super poor. You guys know what else he did that we fucking loved? He backed and has produced 2 of her movies now. The young woman who made Are You There, God It's Me, Margaret, that we
Oh,
love so
yeah,
much.
we
What?
saw that.
He's
yeah.
produced both
No
of her films and is
way.
producing the next one as well. So anyway, another throwback
went to the theater.
they don't make them like that anymore, you guys. That the lines in that movie, it feels like that kind of all about Eve energy where you're in that New York space. It's set in New York. Fantastic rewatch. I love it. Jackal, watched it, finished it,
Wow.
enjoyed it. Fun stuff. I think it's not even a criticism, but the observation I made with the last 20 seconds of this was that I thought it was a miniseries. And I think they're setting it up to be a series. So I wanted maybe a little bit more resolution. And I think they are clearly trying to have you come along for another ride. It was fun. I'll do it again. So I'm excited to watch that show. My brother-in-law, Jack Doolan, is in that show for a little bit, and it got a Golden Globe nomination.
What?
So he's now
Does he
a
last
part
more
of
than one
a
episode
show
this
that-
time?
What?
No, he doesn't.
Oh my god! It's like, give Jack a chance.
No, I was like, dude, you have all these wonderful deaths and write-offs. It's fantastic. Okay, my big, what have I been watching? Well, Elizabeth watched The Revenant the other day. I sat down with her for some of that. Fantastic. We all talked way too much. Not we, probably, but the world talked too much shit about that movie when it's out. It's another
We
masterpiece.
took shit.
by a
You and I got
master.
high and watched that movie. We had a great time.
We did. We met Casey there by accident. Do you remember that? He was doing a
Yeah,
double
we were in
feature
like the
that day.
second row or whatever. Our jaw was on the
Unbelievable.
fucking ground.
Fantastic. All right, so my big rewatches came because I texted you guys about this last week. I saw in IMAX for its 10th anniversary release, Interstellar. It was one of the best theater
yeah.
experiences I've had in a long time. Jaw on the floor, tears were flowing.
Yeah.
I was fucking moved. It was amazing. I came home, I read the screenplay, and I just went on a Nolan deep dive. And I've just been reading screenplays and watching his movies.
It's one of
I'm
my
having a
favorite.
great time.
It's one of my favorite stories to tell. Like when we got snowed in that time, and somebody gave me
Yeah.
some.
Did Katie
some
come? I feel like Katie
illicit,
came.
Like
Yeah, I gave you
drugs
some
and-
acid, and we pressed play
Yeah.
on Interstellar. That's
yeah,
what
it's like
happened.
only
That's
two
what
things in
happened
the
while-
universe
that's it.
terrify me. It's tidal waves and black holes.
Good,
Oh, yeah.
fantastic
Yeah,
movie to
both of them.
watch
What a guess.
on LSD.
But the
I
best
watched
part
the
is
Dark Knight.
for the last 30 seconds, like for about 30 seconds near the end of that, I understood the fifth dimensional physics required. I had it.
You were like, I can see it.
I didn't write it down. Sorry, everyone.
Wait, what's
but
our
I had
favorite
it.
thing to say when we do acid? It's we figured it out.
We figured it out. Dave, you literally, you were them. The they that they keep referring to.
Yes.
When you were watching that movie, that was you. I watched the entire Dark Knight trilogy, which was fun, read the screenplays. And also maybe when I'm reading some of Paul's screenplays, so I watched Hard 8 for the first time in a very
Wow.
long time. I had not rewatched that
And?
in many years. It's great. It's a great
John,
first
we've
film.
only been off from this podcast for like 9 days. How much shit have you fucking watched, dude? Like,
I've watched a lot. I'm unemployed.
It's
I'm
been 2
unemployed right
weeks.
now, so I'm watching too much stuff. I am also, are you guys caught up? I am caught up on Dune Prophecy, and I don't want to say anything yet.
I'm not.
but
I
I'm
was
watching
just about
that
to
show.
text you. I was just about to text you and say should I watch it?
I think you should
Yeah,
if
you
you care
should.
about the Dune world. If you're interested in the Dune world, it's
I
more
think I do,
information
but
about that.
it's that time of the year though where all this shit comes out, and I'm like, God, I don't know where to
I know.
put it all.
Well, don't prioritize Dune Prophecy over seeing the movies because the movies are in theaters. We can watch Dune.
Yeah,
whenever
but I
the
saw
fuck we want,
I
you
saw
know?
both Dunes multiple times, so I'm just like, fuck, I don't know.
If you don't care at all about Dune, I don't
do. I
think.
care.
No, I know you care, but I could just say I could see people. If you don't care about Dune, I don't know if this is going to make you care about Dune. But if you already like that world, the prophecy, like the book, is set thousands of years in the past. So it's a fun contextual
fun. Okay.
story right after
I'll get
the
in there.
Machine Wars.
I should have
The
saved
Machine
them to my
Wars were
fucking
not too long
iPad.
ago.
I flew and I didn't save enough shit to my iPad. I wish I did. Okay, I watched two big things. I watched all of Senna, which is, if you guys, I think it's the best. I love when they do this with. So it's a Formula One show, but Ayrton Senna is one of the most famous Formula One drivers. Not only was he arguably the best Formula One driver of all time, but he also died on the track. So he has he has two things that he's known for. He's known for dying on the track, and he's actually one of the last big names to die, because when he died, everybody was like, fuck this shit. And actually, very famously, Michael Schumacher, who's perhaps the most famous Formula One driver of all time, maybe Lewis Hamilton has passed him, was actually right behind him when he crashed. And it was right ahead of him winning for the first time. Schumacher was in second place in that race. So he actually saw Senna die, and it was his idol. Senna was sort of his idol. And so anyway, they opened the series and closed the series with the crash, because it's part of his legacy. They're not going to hide from it. But I will say, I actually can't believe how realistic it is. And I used to do. I did watch it on my iPad, and I'm going to say two things about that. I don't feel bad about it because I have a really big TV. I have a 65-inch TV, and I have a screening room in my building. But I have very fancy AirPod Pros with adaptive sound, so I can go on. I was watching this on a treadmill one time, and I was going to just do a warm up, and I couldn't stop watching. Whenever there was a racing sequence, I increased the speed on the treadmill. And whenever there was a scene, I decreased it. So I was basically doing interval training. But whenever there was a race, I could go really high, and I was fucking sprinting. And it was so real and so captivating that if you're just curious, why do so many people in the world care about Formula One racing? I'm not going to try to convince you to do that, but it's a great show. It's a fantastic show. And it's 6 episodes. The guy looks just like him, and he acts just like him. And I think it's a great watch. So watch Senna on Netflix.
How excited are you for the F1 movie?
I'm very excited, but now that Senna's over, especially, I'm like, because also another thing too, the time period's perfect. It's he starts in the 70s, and then he's basically the 80s into the 90s. So nowadays everything's very safe. So even though there are crashes and such, I think there were multiple races this year without a safety car, meaning there were no real crashes. Like you can go 5.
Yeah.
Like you can't watch a football game without an injury, but you can go 5 races without a crash. Like
Which
there's,
is surprising, considering how many pads the pussies wear.
It's good that it's safe. It's good that it's safe. But this is at that time period where you're watching this and you're like, people are actually risking death. It's like the end of the time period where it's like people's mortality is on the line with every race. I love Senna. We also watched Black Doves. And this was like one of those shows that was really fun. This is Keira Knightley and Ben Whishaw. Black Doves? Yeah. It's a spy. It's basically Slow Horses on Netflix. It's a spy thing.
Cool.
And also if you know Happy Valley, to my British friends, the main woman in Happy Valley plays like the head of the Black Doves. So Keira Knightley is the wife of the defense minister, but she's actually a spy, but she doesn't work for the government. She works for this secret agency. And Ben Whishaw is a triggerman or a killer who works for them. And I'll say this, I love the show. The acting really helps. The writing is good. I've known a lot of people that watch Slow Horses and they're like, what's going on? What is this? Is this a Slow Horses ripoff? It's really fun, but the performances are great. And I'll say this, I love Keira Knightley. Ben Whishaw proves that he's one of the best actors on the planet, because it's one of those roles that anybody could play this role, but he does it in a way that's like, holy shit, he's unbelievable. Ben Whishaw is such
we've been fans of him for a long time. He's special.
Yeah, this is a guy who was Hamlet on the West End, and he was like 22. So obviously he's brilliant. He's the new Q and stuff. Last but not least, we started La Palma yesterday, which is the new big thing on Netflix. And I know some people have finished the series and are angry, so I'm very curious as to know why. But it's basically White Lotus meets Force Majeure. So you get a couple family things that are going on, and you get some character things. But there's a volcano. It's a disaster show. the volcano is going to erupt. It's a real Spanish island off the coast of Africa. It's a real life thing. And they say, like, if this thing erupts, it could cause chaos and could lead to a tsunami that goes across the Atlantic Ocean, whatever. So anyway, it's fun, and we really like the first episode, and I can't wait to finish it, probably as soon as we finish this recording tonight.
Guys, I think the last thing I want to talk about before we do our tiny little thing is this is probably the last show of our year of 2024.
Yeah.
Are there any standouts that you are super, super anticipating for 2025? Shows, TV, movies?
Formula F1 with Brad Pitt.
That F1 movie? Is that your,
Even more,
your
even
go-to?
more than Mission Impossible. Yeah, Dave.
I mean, I'm waiting for Thursday because they're dropping the Superman trailer. But if I am all in on seeing what he's done with Superman.
And this is, oh shit, it's what's his name, right? Who just took over DC?
Yeah, James Gunn.
Guardians of the
James
Galaxy.
Gunn.
Yeah, it's James Gunn, right? God, do you think he's going to try to make Superman funny?
No, I think he's going to try and make, from what I'm seeing, he's trying to make Superman hopeful again.
Okay. Mine, without a doubt, is PTA's next movie. I think it'll be out next Christmas, and I'm super pumped for it.
No
I think
shit.
they finished shooting, so I'm excited.
28 Years Later is coming out soon. They dropped the trailer for that.
That trailer is
recently,
creepy
so-
as fuck.
Yeah.
And my most anticipated television is definitely White Lotus season 3. I'm a huge fan. I can't wait for the 3rd season.
Mm.
Did you say wait? You said PTA?
I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to Wednesday
PTA's
and
movie.
Fallout.
Okay, cool.
What?
Yeah.
Wednesday and Fallout. I'm looking forward to.
Wednesday and Fallout.
Wednesday season 2, and then Fallout season 2.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
All right, let's take a
We're going to
break.
keep this under 2 hours. Let's take a quick break, figure out what movie we're talking about, and then we'll get back to you in a second. Listen
All
to
right.
some Dawson.
Yeah, fuck off. I'm never watching that again.
That was
Dude, the shit
that
they
shit
do.
was scary, dude.
The shit they do to their eyes. I'm like, no, I'm out. Fuck this.
Terrifying. I mean, really scary. It's, when you compare it to horror
Yeah.
movies nowadays, it's not that scary, but
Yeah.
that was scary.
That was scary because it was like, yeah, fuck that noise. No. And we're back.
And we're back. All right, people. Very excited about this one. We've done a couple Tarantinos. I feel like Dave was iffy about some of his Tarantino films, but then we've made him watch a lot on this show. You always end up coming around to them, though, Dave. You always do. So we are going to 1993's
1993. We're not going to 1930.
1993's
Oh, God. Imagine if Tarantino released a film in 1930. Fucking hell.
True
He would be hung. He'd be
Romance,
arrested.
written by Tarantino, directed by Tony Scott. We cannot wait to get into this film. Also, so many fun movies came out this year. Free Willy, Rookie of the Year, and a lot of good movies, too. I mean, that was a good movie. Those are good movies. Fuck everybody.
Those
I
are the
cannot wait to
movies.
talk about this year.
Giving away your age there, Jeff.
Do you want to say anything before we go and say good night? Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Merry
No.
Christmas.
I got to get back.
Podcast.
Just one last time.
The nursing home gate's closed soon. I got to go.
Sure, yeah. One last time since it is your birthday.
You're not on
Fuck
Medicare
you.
yet, Dave.
Cheers.
Until next time, film fans.
Later.